Hello and welcome to this Africa Cup of Nations special here on France 24. I'm Jean-Émile Jammine, taking you through all the latest action, heartbreak and ecstasy. Joining me on set, we have sports journalists Thando, Sibiya and Andrea's Evagora. We also have Selina Sykes coming to us straight from Rabat, Morocco, where the second semi-final has just played out. And ladies and gentlemen, we do have our finalists at last. Hosts Morocco have defeated Nigeria on penalties. They will be playing 2021 winners Senegal, the Lions of Teranga, who defeated Egypt 1-0. Africa's biggest prize awaits, and it's after two extremely tense affairs. We saw Selina Sykes there coming to us from that main stadium in Rabat. Selina, what is the emotion amongst the Moroccan fans right now? So tense up until that very last penalty kick.
Wow, Jean-Émile, wasn't that a tense one? All the Moroccan fans are on the edge of their seats, standing up. I don't think there was a lot of fans sitting down, particularly in extra time. And obviously with those dreaded penalties. Look, Walid Regragui said that they'd have to suffer to get there, but they've done it. They've reached their first AFCON final since 2004. Obviously in the most dramatic of circumstances, beating Nigeria 3-2 on penalties. I think I have to say it was deserved for the Atlas Lions. I personally think that they did look like the more dangerous side over the 120 minutes. Obviously not getting that goal in open play, but obviously coming out on top of those very tense penalty shootout, leaving it right until the last moment with that fifth penalty converted by En-Nesyri to put the Moroccans through to the final. And obviously also their goalkeeper Bono, the hero of the hour there, with two big saves in that penalty shootout to send them through. I think you can maybe hear that there's a lot of Moroccan fans that are still in the stadium partying because this is such a big moment for this side. There's been so much pressure and expectation on this Moroccan side to deliver on home turf. There's been so much investment into Moroccan football for this moment so that they can lift that trophy 50 years after their first one back in 1976, this time on home turf. So we'll be looking forward to a battle of the Lions in that final on Sunday. It's the one that most people expected beforehand, the one that most people wanted as well. So that will be the Lions of Teranga up against the Atlas Lions, Jean-Émile.
At that exact stud, Prince Moulay Abdallah in Rabat. Selina, thanks so much. You're talking about the host nations, the pressure. Andreas, does being the host nation in a penalty shootout give that added extra pressure? And can Morocco be praised for living up to the occasion?
I think so. Look, there's pressure on both sides. It's going to be a little bit extra on the hosts. Probably the less said about the match, the better. It wasn't a classic, let's be honest. Morocco started okay. It fizzled out very quickly, didn't it? I think after an hour, we were all thinking this is probably going to penalties. And that penalty shootout on your match sheet, it was a horrible penalty. It was just so timid. I think it's the first time I've seen a goalkeeper go the wrong way, but still have time to come back and save the penalty. I've got to be asking Nigeria, where were your big stars? Where was Lookman? Where was Iwobi? Where was Simon? They were all on the pitch and none of them took a penalty. And that's when you want your forwards and they're all experienced players. I was really surprised they weren't taking penalties. And I think you have to say Morocco managed that penalty shootout better than Nigeria did, even though over the 90 minutes, Nigeria, I think both teams kind of changed their game plan. Nigeria a little bit more defensive. Morocco went on the attack a little bit more than we've seen so far. But at the end, it was all about the penalty shootout, and Morocco did manage it better. El Nasiri's been in brilliant form this season for Fenerbahce, and he put away the winning penalty.
But Thando, we were commenting backstage about the defensive prowess of Nigeria, at least holding that Moroccan attack at bay. They had 16 shots to Nigeria's 2. Calvin Bassey was immense in that Nigerian defense. And when it came down to what they needed in attack, as Andrea says, they just seemed toothless. Victor Osimhen, I don't think he touched the ball more than 3 times in that second half.
Seems like the armband was heavy. Honestly, I think that's one of the big changes that really, if I had to, as somebody looking in from the outside, was where Nigeria fell short. Losing Ndidi, coming into a semi-final against Morocco, the host, you needed that composure. You needed somebody to be leading the team. We've seen Victor Osimhen's temperament in the previous games. He doesn't seem like the best guy to be leading a game psychologically. And not psychologically in terms of coming up with a game plan, but just leading the troops, keeping them composed. You know, the leadership that Sadio Mané offered in the previous game against Egypt. You know, the leadership that Hakimi gives every now and again. That kind of leadership, you needed it in this game. And I think that's where Nigeria just didn't have it. So if they had to look back on the drawing board, I think that's where it came from. I'm waiting to hear from Coach Eric Schell to see what he has to say about this. But honestly, looking from the outside in, something just wasn't working with Nigeria. It's not like they weren't creating the chances. Lookman was neutralized. It was in the wings as well. And you can see it in the starting lineup and the formation that they came into. And this is the Moroccan side. They had a 4-1-4-1 formation. Brahim Diaz dropping down to the wings. And so he made it very difficult for the Ademola Lookmans and the Osimhens, if ever he would go out into the wings, to even make those runs up and down. And so on the other side, you have Hakimi, who's also blocking the wings. And so that's where they silenced the Nigerian side. And in the middle of the park was really, really saturated. It was so dense over there, nothing could come through. And I think that's where it was very difficult for the Nigerian side, who's been incredible attacking-wise. But I think the Moroccans did their homework.
Is it a case of Morocco has just got the job done and they won't really care how they did it?
They won't care. I mean, from Nigeria's point of view, I think this is about par for the course. I wasn't expecting them to get further than the semis.
Despite having 14 goals along the way?
Well, look, first, going into this tournament, again, there was this argument over bonuses. I know it's every time, but it can't help. The player bonuses, that is, which I believe are about to be paid. We're waiting for the government okay. And I've just lost count of how many coaches Nigeria have had in these last year or so. I mean, it has not been a stable ship, this Nigerian side. So I think getting to the semis is far from a disaster for them. Of course, they'll be hurting tonight. They really would. From Morocco's point of view, I think there was some criticism after their lack of goals and attacking football, lack of it in previous rounds. They won't care. The whole country will be focused on that final and they'll all be behind their side ahead of Sunday's big final against Senegal.
But 50 years, Thando, since that last final. I mean, I think that's quite an astonishing, not the last final, the last win. Let me rephrase that, because they did reach that final in 2004. It was a 2-1 loss against Tunisia. This is one of the most underachieving African nations, if we can put it that way. And now they have, at least in front of their fans, reached a final. This is huge for at least Moroccan progression. Also ahead of the 2030 World Cup.
Exactly, and it's great news for them. They've invested, and this is a great return on investment. I think on the continent, Morocco has probably spent the most in terms of investing in infrastructure, investing in coaches, just overall. So they're putting themselves, if ever they had to have a foreign policy, as a footballing nation. And it's showing by them advancing into the finals. And I think that's one of the last feathers that Walid Regragui wants to add into his hat. And so, yeah, it's been looking very good for them. And let's just see if they'll make it all the way, because Senegal is not going to be an easy opponent.
Not at all. In terms of that Senegalese opponent, we will get to it just now. But I want to head back to Rabat with Selina, because Selina, in front of these fans, they are so expectant. How does it bode for the tournament that the host nation gets to the final? It seems to be quite a lucky charm for host nations in Africa Cup of Nations history. They do seem to tend to fare well, rather, and for Morocco in particularly, they are extremely strong at home. So just how important is it that they now reach that final on Sunday?
Well, look, Jean-Émile, we don't say the 12th man for nothing. Obviously, playing in front of your home crowd is always a very big advantage for any team wanting to win a tournament. This stadium here, the sound, the wall of sound is just so impressive in Rabat. Obviously, majority Moroccan fans in the stadium. It's quite an intimidating atmosphere for players. Obviously, these are all players that are used to playing on bigger stages. But the Moroccan players several times during the match were revving up the crowd. They were encouraging the crowd, lifting up their arms, telling them to shout more. And that's what Walid Regragui asked for beforehand in a press conference on yesterday, asking Moroccan fans, urging them that making sure they would have no voices left at the end. He recognises the importance of the home crowd as well here. The home crowd that has been harsh on the squad at times. They've been quite quick to criticise the players and the coach Regragui. They're quite a hard nation, shall we say, when it comes to their football. But look, when they're here in the stadium behind their team, they are 100% behind the Moroccan side.
Selina, thank you so much. Now we have that match on Sunday to look forward forward to, and that's after Senegal beat Egypt by that solitary Sadio Mané goal. It was a shot which beat the Egyptian goalkeeper, and along the ground, it was quite a tough shot to save, at least. I mean, really went right past him. He was unsighted from the defence, and another cagey match it was, Andrea. How do you think Morocco is going to approach that game on Sunday? Are they going to change their tactic at all, given their opponent?
I think they might start at least by going back into their shell and being a little bit more defensive. Senegal have been very impressive for me. I mean, today it wasn't a classic, and we should say we talked about rivalries in African football, and there's Ghana, Nigeria, and Algeria, Morocco. For me, this is perhaps the biggest rivalry in African football at the moment. Remember the last World Cup, Senegal put Egypt out, and then they won in the AFCON final as well. And Sadio Mané and Salah, they were teammates at Liverpool, but they were not the best of friends. I think that's fairly public. And today there was a couple of tackles flying in, and just towards the end of the first half, it very nearly boiled over. So there's no love lost between these two teams. It was a good finish for me. But just before that went in, I had a look at some stats. The XG for Senegal was 0.14, and shots on goal, 0. So this, again, wasn't a classic for Egypt. I mean, so, this wasn't a spectacular game. They're two very good sides. They know each other well, all those cliches, but they're true. And again, Senegal have got the better of Egypt. So, that's 3-0 in recent matches for them. And I think Senegal will be a better team in the final.
Yeah, I'm sure, at least with the likes of Sadio Mané, Ismaila Sarr up front as well. They've got Nicholas Jackson, the now Bayern Munich loanee. They've got a lot of firepower. Sadio Mané himself spoke to France 24 after the game, and he just talked magnanimously, we can say. Let's hear from the Saudi Arabia-based forward.
Yes, I think there's no secret. It's just hard work. And I also think you need a bit of luck these days. We had a bit of luck too, we have to admit that. Even so, as a team, we deserved to win because we created quite a lot of chances. I also think we were the better side. I mean, really, over the full 90 minutes. I'd say it's simply down to hard work.
So, Thando, he's saying they were the better side. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I think looking at how they were when they would regain possession, so the turnovers and the transitions were actually quite fast, and I think that is how they managed to get their name on the score sheet. Again, Sadio Mané, keeping the composure, and I think that was the element that made them win in this game. Even seeing how the chance was created, it was Jackson who went with the first strike, and it was actually quite powerful. And then it ricocheted off of a defender's body, and then it went, and that's when Sadio Mané went in for it with his right foot. So I do think that the composure that they have, no matter where they place in the field, makes it very difficult to defend them. And I think that's where Morocco might have to really polish it up in that regard, that you have to be prepared for it to come from anywhere. And so I think this is what's going to make them a little bit more difficult as opponents. Egypt, I think they defended a lot, and they really relied on the pace of Mo Salah and Marmoush to then counter very quickly, and also in the transition play. But then the Senegalese side was also very good at reading the game and neutralizing that every opportunity they got. In the post-match interviews, I think quite a few players actually alluded to that, speaking about how they couldn't give the game to the Egyptian side because once they have it, they take over completely. And so it's also very cool to play at your own game plan, and I think that's what Senegal had as a big advantage. The game was never for Egypt. And even if they were in possession, they would quickly regain possession and they organized themselves well. And I'm talking about Senegal. And that's how they would dominate in the game. And I think that's why even they were able to maintain their lead up till the end of the game. And so I think this is a very good strong point that they have. And so going into the next game against Morocco, they have so many options. They have Mbaye, who didn't even play, who come on today. They have Dia. They have Lamine Camara, who also didn't play today. They've got Jackson, the normal front line. Defensively, they're also quite solid.
They will be missing Koulibaly in defence, though.
Yes.
That's a big miss. That is a big miss, certainly, against Morocco. Selina, I'm going to ask you to put your football hat on just quickly, your real coaching analysis hat, if you can. Egypt started that game with 8 players based domestically. Senegal, on the other hand, had absolutely none. I'm just wondering, there is a question going around here where the advantage lies. Is it to have domestic-based players here in the AFCON, or is it to actually spread them out and have that experience overseas? Where do you think it lies? Where's your balance?
I mean, if we're looking at that game alone and look at how many big stars are in that Senegalese side who play in the Premier League or other big leagues in Europe, it would look like that does have the advantage, wouldn't it? These obviously players that step up in big moments. Obviously, you've got some players who used to play their football on the biggest stages in Europe, and I think that's what swings it in the end. You'd think that obviously the Egyptian players knowing each other very well, playing with each other week in, week out in the Egyptian league, bar Mo Salah and Marmoush, maybe that would give them a better upper hand in terms of cohesion, but look, I think the Senegalese side on paper is the strongest, the most complete squad in the tournament alongside with Morocco. It's not by chance that both of these teams find themselves in the final on Sunday. Obviously, these squads, a lot more complete, even if they're not playing football together week in, week out. It's also obviously down to the management and how you get teams together when it comes to spending over a month together here in Morocco.
But now the fundamental point is that Senegal are through to the final, Andrea. And Mohamed Salah does not have an Africa Cup of Nations still to his name. We heard the likes of JJ Okocha as well as John Obi Mikel, Nigerian legends, saying that, well, to become a real legend of African football, you have to win the Africa Cup of Nations. Do they have a point?
I think so, yeah. And there was this big debate. We were talking about this ahead of the first programme when a few people were saying, look, he is a fantastic player. No one would doubt that. But he hasn't got that big trophy at the continental level. He's going to be hugely disappointed with that. But I'd go along with what Selina was saying. I mean, of course, players stay in Egypt for a very good reason. There's a lot of money in Egyptian football and there's very little in Senegalese football, let's be honest. So that Egyptian team have grown up together. They played at the under-20 level, under-23 level. It's maybe the end of a chapter for them. But for Salah, it's going to be hugely disappointing for him, yeah. I mean, he really did want this. Maybe there's one more left in for him. And if he wants to play, I think he will play. But it's, again, Sadio Mané was the winner in that particular duel.
But now the next one is the last time that the Africa Cup of Nations will be in a 2-year cycle. After that, it's 4 if the president of CAF is to be taken for his word. Will we see the legends of the game like we have done this time? And what are you hoping for?
Oh, I think so. In 2 years' time, it will be another fantastic showcase. I mean, the question, it's not sure 100% that they will go to a 2-year cycle because this has not been ratified by the CAF General Assembly or by the Executive Committee or by any other national association. So this did come as a little bit of a surprise. So let's hold our horses a little bit. But if we're going on the basis that it's every 4 years, that's a whole different debate we can have another time. But that leaves less time, obviously, for these big stars to get the AFCON title that they really want. So Salah's going to be really disappointed tonight. There's no doubt about that. He wanted this trophy.
Well, very disappointed. Nonetheless, as we mentioned, it is Rabat on Sunday, and it is going to be hosts Morocco up against Senegal. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want a quick final prediction. Thando?
It's a tough one, but I think because Morocco's playing on home soil, it might be for them to take.
First AFCON since
There's
1976 and a second AFCON.
I don't think they want to let this one go. Yeah, and also a wise man once said, drink it in Casablanca, relish it in Rabat. So it's written in the stars. I think the Moroccans are taking
I don't think I can end off on a better phrase than that. But Andrea, just a quick summary and a quick...
Yeah, we had a bit of fun with this prediction, didn't we, ahead of the tournament. I actually did predict Senegal to beat Morocco in the finals. I'll stick with that, but not with too much confidence.
Senegal versus Morocco. We will see you here for the final. Of course, there is the third and fourth match playoff before that. Egypt against Nigeria. We'll see how that goes. But that's all for now on Africa's biggest stage of football. We'll see you soon.